his first NFL game in 700 days, guys. The Browns QB completed 12 of 22 passes for 131 yards. No touchdowns, but an interception. Now, Cleveland did get the win, 27-14, over Watson's former team, thanks to 3 defensive and special teams touchdowns. Shannon, I know you watched this one. What was your biggest takeaway from DeShaun's return?
He looked rusty. He looked like a guy that hadn't played football in two plus years, Skip, and that's what you expect. Sure. I don't care how skilled a person is. You don't take 2 years off from doing something. If you look at musicians, they normally put music out. They keep it going, Skip. They want to stay on top of their craft. Dr. Elatrosh, who you and I both know, he don't take 2 years off. Well, I think I'm going to do an Achilles surgery and an ACL this year, and I'm going to take 2 years off. You keep doing them to stay on top of that skill set.
Yep, agreed.
As a quarterback, to be away from the game, and all of a sudden, you can throw all you want to in practice. You can throw all you want to your receivers. Oh, he was throwing to that ain't the football. Football is about having guys trying to hit you in the back of your head, you having to read a defense and find the open man.
Yep.
He looked rusty, Skip. He skipped a couple of passes. He looked unsettled, but I expected that. I did not expect DeShaun Watson to look like the last time we saw DeShaun Watson, even though they lost the game, he threw for almost 400 yards. I did not expect to see that DeShaun Watson. Now, maybe some people did, but I did not. And it's going to take him, Skip. He might not get his complete rhythm back this year. But having played, if he plays down the stretch, he will be a lot better, much better, going into next season than he is now. So I didn't see anything that like, oh, my goodness, man, Cleveland better hope. He looked exactly like I expected him to look after being away from football for 700 days. Good thing they didn't need him to be anything spectacular because he was far from that yesterday. They get a scoop and score. They got an interception. They got a punt return for a touchdown.
76 yards.
A punt return. So they had very little offense yesterday. They didn't need it. But moving forward, I expect him to get incrementally better and better. And then the old DeShaun Watson that, for the football player, I think he shows back up.
Okay. Because I remain such a big DeShaun fan as a quarterback, even though off the field I now have my doubts.
Yes.
I was a little shook up by how poorly he played. I thought he'd be a little better than that, but I agree with your premise. 700 days is 700 days. It's just a lot of days. And I don't know about his fitness level. As you always say, you have to go play football to actually be in football shape.
Yes.
And so I'm sure he's getting a little sore and he's a little gassed and it doesn't, the rhythm, it's just moving a lot faster than it moved in practice. I get all that, but it even came down to Houston jumped out to a 3-0 lead and then he goes down, he's got to throw into the end zone. I think he just misread it. I think he was reading man and they're just sitting in zones where we can see the end zone interception. Because I think he misreads the underneath man who doesn't move. He just stayed right there. He didn't follow the receiver across. But this is that's rust. I haven't done this for a long time, and it felt like that was going to be a big play. Like it felt like Houston was going to play inspired against their former quarterback. And the only way, as you point out, that Cleveland got out with a W here and survived was a 76-yard punt return and a 4-yard scoop and score, and then a pick six. A pick six.
3-9 offensive touchdowns.
That's 21 points right there. And then they tack on a couple of field goals. And they were very fortunate that Kyle Allen was the other quarterback, because I don't know if you looked at his QBR, but it was a grand total of 3. He was horrible, scale of 0 to 100. He played about as poor a quarterback game as I think I've ever seen. He was just hapless and hopeless.
He's Kyle Allen. I mean, what do you expect?
Kyle Allen. I've seen him have decent games before. But
I think he was in Carolina. He was in Washington for a minute. But he kind of bounced around. So, he's a backup that can come in and he's serviceable. But I wouldn't expect miracles.
No. And so they were very fortunate. So I told our producer Tyler last night, well, DeShaun was very fortunate that he got to re-enter back at
against
Houston
his old team.
And in a stadium where you would think there's still some love for him, but then I read the story in ESPN about this. Jake Trotter, my friend, wrote a piece, and I couldn't hear it on TV, but he was writing about how the stadium was only half full, but that DeShaun got loudly booed every time he came onto the field.
Right. I think, look, a part of that, Skip, is the things that happen with the allegations off the field, but it's also he wanted out.
Yeah. He wanted out. I agree. I totally agree.
So
he wanted out.
Right. So I believe it's now. I'm not trying to say
he held out because he wanted out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So before the game started, in pregame, he signed autographs for fans. He took selfie with fans. Great. Mm-hmm. But then I'm reading about things that I couldn't see on TV, like out in the tailgate. There was a mock massage table was set up with a mannequin, and it said complimentary unlicensed massages. He's going to get that everywhere he goes. Okay,
for the rest of his career.
Then some Texans fan held up a sign, I would rather be 1-9-1 than have DeShaun Watson as my quarterback.
Right.
Okay, he's going to see that.
Yes.
And then some guy was wearing a T-shirt that said "Justice for Women" on the front and "Brown shame" on the back. He's going to get that everywhere he goes. And this might be about as light of that sort of stuff as he's going to see because it was in Houston.
I think, Skip, look, he's going to hear a smattering of that for the rest of his career. But I think as we move forward, it's going to be less and less, because I remember being in a situation when I was with Ray in 2000.
Yeah, you were in the middle of it.
Smack dab. And so and it got less and less. I mean, they still had the signs, and they still.
For those who don't remember, it was a murder charge, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Double murder.
Yep.
And so it was there. Even the next year, I only played 2 years with Ray before I went back.
And this was only Ray's
Ray was 90. He came in 96, so it's probably his 5th year in the league.
Okay, go ahead.
So he had to deal with that. Ray played 17, so he had to deal with it for another 12 years.
And you get to the Super Bowl, and on big media day, he really had to deal with it. And I thought he was spectacular in how he handled himself.
And I think DeShaun understands that this is a part of his legacy.
John.
No, Brian Billett was the coach.
Yeah, okay.
Brian Billett.
That's right. Okay. All right.
But I think, Skip, DeShaun understands. DeShaun understands this is a part of his legacy.
Well,
He's going to have to deal with it.
But he got asked about it after the game, and even I don't need him to be asked about it anymore. But he's going to be asked about it, and he's going to have to keep saying, I can't talk about it, or I don't want to talk about it.
There's still pending litigation.
Yep, that is
correct.
correct.
Anything that you say can and will be used against you in the court of law.
So going forward, part of this battle that DeShaun faces will be this off-the-field battle.
Yes.
How do you deal with the relentlessness of it? Because it's not going to go away. Can you rise above it? Can you make peace in your own head with it?
Right.
Because if it constantly eats at your psyche, it's going to affect your performance.
I think the thing is, Skip, I think when you're out there for those 3 hours, I don't think any of that matters. I think off the field, when you're alone with your own thoughts, and you're and it's on television, or you read about it in the paper, or you're on social media, and they're saying things as you mentioned, with the mannequins, and people have the shirts or the poster board signs. So I think that's because when you're on the field, Skip, you're not thinking about anything. I say that's your soulless.
One good thing about your game, there are not such things as courtside seats.
No.
So you don't have people speaking directly to you while you're performing.
Yeah, unless you run to the stands, you're not going to hear what people are saying like you could.
But if you are sitting on the bench, you probably you have what they call rabbit ears. You can probably hear people behind you in the first couple of rows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You absolutely can hear that.
Okay, so you're going to have to tune that out going forward. He seems strong as far as football character goes, but he's going to have to rise above it from here on.
Yeah.
And it'll be very interesting to see. Their team is still pretty good. Very good.
Skip, honestly, I'll be honest with you. I thought they'd be better, a lot better than what they are. I really did. When you look at their personnel, you look at offensively, the way they can run the football, you look at that offensive line. Defensively, you look at the weapons with a Myles Garrett and some of the Denzel Ward and some of the guys. I thought their record would be better. I don't understand Jacoby Brissett, but they lost some games that they probably should have won, even with Jacoby Brissett.
I agree. Speaking of Jacoby Brissett, I was very impressed. He is all in for DeShaun. He sat next to him every second on the bench, and they were cutting up, laughing, going back and forth. He was trying to keep him loose, keep his mind out of this stuff.
A part of that, Skip, he understood why he was brought there.
Well, he does, and he's made complete peace with. He's done as the quarterback.
I'm the backup.
Yeah.
I was brought here to play how many games. We didn't know at the time how many games DeShaun was going to be suspended, but we had a very good indication he was going to be suspended. And once Sue Bird, I think, Miss Bird, I think when she rendered her ruling, 4 games, we knew he was going to get that. They appealed. So we knew he was getting 4 games regardless. And he understood it his job to navigate these waters until DeShaun got back, be it 4 games, 8 games, 11, 12 games, who knows? It might have been the entire year. But he understood his job. He said, okay, they brought me here to do it. I did my job. Now I go back to the bench and Keep this guy focused. Keep his mind. Skip, the really good players. And the better you are, the better you can do what?
Yep.
Compartmentalize.
Yep.
He's going to have to compartmentalize. I got a job to do. What transpired off the field, all the commotion going on, but I got to have tunnel vision. The only thing that's important right now is between those lines.
Yep. It reminds me a little bit of when Michael Vick came back, and you know Michael very well.
Yeah,
had him on your podcast here lately, and we know him very well from this network.
Yep.
But you just have to keep your nose to grindstone and just try to close your ears to it and go forward. You paid Michael. I paid my price.
He paid his debt to society.
Did he?
With 23 months in Fed and a big fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, a lot of people don't think DeShaun paid enough because not only did he got a $230 million guaranteed contract on top of coming out of this unscathed.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so from here on, you're going to have to do better than...
He didn't serve time. I think his reputation... I don't think he'll ever get from under this Avalanche reputation.
I would agree with that. So he's 12 of 22 for 131 yards. You're going to have to do better, and I think he will be better than that.
Right. They ran but they always run the ball against everybody for the most part. 38 rushes, 174 yards. But that was all that was required of him. Now, Skip, it's going to be hard for me to believe that they can continue to win games with DeShaun Watson going 12 for 22. He's going to have to get better. I believe he will get better as he plays.
All I know right now is I'm just hoping that Kyle Allen is the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans next Sunday because it will be at Jerry World. And I need Kyle Allen.
Skip, Kyle Allen, Ethan Allen, it doesn't matter. Come on. If you don't hang 50 on them.
Davis Mills, Kyle Allen, 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
General Mills.
I think we got